Buongiorno.
Mark my words, Mel. Early by Christmas.
Even now, less than a score of years after the World War,
Hostilities exist. There is no blinking at the fact.
we shall never surrender!
This is the Militaria Podcast, brought to you by your friends at Queen City Militaria, Wehrmacht Militaria, and SMG War Relics.
The Solo Cup budget has exploded since the start of the Militaria Podcast. Welcome to the Militaria Podcast. My name is Joshua Doda. I run Queen City Militaria, and I'm joined today by my two friends. Last time I got some heat for breaking it down. So this time it's just my two friends, Billy Kramer of WehrmachtMilitaria.com.
I get to go first tonight? That's amazing. Usually Dante goes first.
I know, but
I'm moving up in the food. I got a new hat. I went shopping with my mom. She came back in town from New Mexico, and we went to the mall for old time's sake. And I got a new hat.
Well, we're all happy to see you wearing a hat. There's been a shortage of Billy hats on the show, and of course, we're also here with Dante Gambino of SMG War Relics.
Yo, that's right here, representing the 302. I got a new hat too, William. So I'm right up on your level, son.
I don't have a hat today, but I told Billy before we started recording, I've been playing this new roulette game, basically, where I go to Sport Clips for a haircut. And it's like, it's high stakes shit. I don't know if you guys out there ever try to do this thing, but it's very different from a regular barber.
You know what would be hilarious if half of your head wasn't cut properly and you could show us, but it actually looks like a decent haircut. Good for you.
I appreciate it, buddy. What are you drinking over there tonight, Bill? We'll start with you. We'll have you go first tonight.
Just Miller Lite in a cup. I mean, good Miller Lite, good people, friend of the show, that kind of thing.
Miller Lite, sponsor of the show, friend of the show. Dante, what are you drinking tonight?
Oh, I'm mixing it up a bit. I went out day drinking. Josh, do you have a photo of me day drinking today? There I am, yours truly. And,
just wearing the Trans Am hat. I love
listen, it. I wouldn't normally buy that. My kids got it for me for like Father's Day or something. So I'm rocking it. And I'm rocking like a freaking Blue Hen from Dogfish. And it was a great festival. There was like a band playing like all this, like, what'd you call it? Like California punk, like
Blink 182 covers.
Blink 182. And like, there was some Weezer mixed in there and a couple other
family
bands.
Friendly punk.
It was good. It was a good time. You could sing along. So it was a great time. So I was day drinking. So I'm half in the bag. And I want to show you that I'm not drinking beer anymore. And I'm going with the old gin and tonics because I'm a big gin and tonic fan. Let me tell you. Go ahead, Billy.
No, you speak very clearly for being on gin and tonic. I mean, I'm impressed. I couldn't handle that. That's
the first one I made would knock over a mule. Like, it was serious. This one, I'm toning it down though. But listen, Brooklyn gin, and not just because I'm from New York, it just happens to be good gin. I don't know anything about Brooklyn. I'm not a city guy. Just because I'm in New York, people get it twisted. I'm from New York, but I don't know shit about the city. And Brooklyn, I don't know shit about Brooklyn either. However, I noticed one funny thing about this gin. It's actually made in Warwick, New York, which is not Brooklyn, and it's nowhere near fucking Brooklyn.
It's fucked up.
But it's a good gin. And if you really want to tickle me nicely, and you want to play me up, you want to get nice, buy me some gin.
This is the kind of schmoozing the OVMS needed to do that we talked about last episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say something about Brooklyn, dude. It's the best place to get Polish food in the city.
All right, I could get down with that. And in the city, and then also Western New York and Chicago area too, probably Detroit.
Probably, but I'm just saying, you go hang out in Greenpoint, you got your choice of excellent Polish restaurants. And
So
I know
what do you eat for Polish food? What is it?
He likes the kielbasa. Of course he does.
you get a kielbasa, you get some pierogi, you got all sorts of stuff. And here's a fun little tidbit. If you want to correct people and be that guy, people will say pierogies, but pierogi is already
pierogi is plural.
It's plural.
Yeah, for sure.
In military, you can't say insignias. It's just insignia.
That's
I
insignia.
I tell even my kids, it's pierogi for everything on the table. That's
You're
pierogi.
not saying like, oh, can I have some dumplings? And here and in Polish, if you want to say single dumpling, you could say pirog. But here's the thing, so uncommon, because what are you going to do? Make one dumpling? It doesn't make any sense.
That's true, right? Absolutely.
It's crazy. Your bunch is
perfect sense.
slaving over that, just making one that doesn't. It's crazy. And then you guys didn't ask, but I'll tell you, Hannaford's store brand black cherry seltzer water today.
Oh man, what is with the seltzers with you, bro. You're really letting me down sometimes.
I go through seltzers like crazy. It's
But
honestly a
nobody's
huge
getting
problem.
excited about seltzers. Nobody wants to talk about seltzers on the podcast. I
You
feel like
think
I'm
that-
There's nothing wrong with him having a seltzer. I have him in my fridge. I just can't bring myself to.
to drink one.
I don't like to sit down to pee, but if hey, Josh likes drinking seltzers and he likes to take it like a lady, I don't care.
Hey,
Oh goodness,
You
poor
guys
Josh.
shit on the seltzer, but I'll tell you what, when I start my seltzer YouTube channel of just seltzer reviews, then we'll see who has the last
I
laugh.
love seltzers, but I like them at like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when I like them.
So today's episode is our interview with Gailen David. He's a well-known collector and dealer of German edged weapons, a pioneer in the hobby, somebody who's been around for quite a long time and a major contributor to several edged weapon reference books over the years. But, before we get into the interview, guys, how's everything going? Bill, I know you were just in Vermont. How was your trip?
Gorgeous. I love going there. It's my second time there. And again, I love the hotel I stayed. I can't wait to go back. Good people out there, and Vermont this time of year is just fucking badass too.
Sweet baby Jesus. All right.
Dante, how are you doing, buddy? What's up with you this week, aside from doing some day drinking?
Some day drinking at my local brewery. Dude, things are great. I told you guys that usually I go from this kind of slump in the summertime. I hit the max, and then boom, after the max, I get situated, and then my website blows up. And it's been proven time and time again that that's the cycle that I'm into. So right now, people are buying like crazy. I'm shipping out stuff like crazy. Things are coming in. Phone calls are not stopping. Emails are not stopping. So I'm having again. I'm back to, oh shit, I got so much to do. Kind of. That's where I am. It's a good time though.
Well, just remember that Vermont is always there, and you can go enjoy it too. You've earned the break.
I like Vermont. Yeah, what's wrong with Vermont? Get me some maple syrup and shit up there. Why not?
Get you some heady topper.
The TSA lady took one of my. I bought a little one, and I bought like kind of a little one, and bitch fucking.
She's like, you're gonna be naughty with this. I'm taking it.
Yeah, and it's like enjoy your pancakes, bitch. Like I spent $6 on that. Like take your $6.
Oh,
No, I live close enough, man. I can mail you some maple syrup. Don't even worry
It's
about
different
it.
when you pick it out yourself, Josh. Okay, I'm sure you got all sorts of fancy maple syrups. Okay, this one I picked out. Listen, my bag has matches in it. I have a cigar cutter, which is technically a razor blade. And that lady's like, you can make that plane awfully sticky with that syrup. And I was like, lady, take it. If you got to take it, take it.
Without further ado, guys, this is our interview with Gailen David. And we're going to have Gailen back on the show at some point. So hopefully we can get some more of these great stories that you're about to hear. So we'll transition into that now.
I have a very special guest today, and his name is Gailen David. And Gailen David is an old school name. We're going back to the dawn of the collecting hobby. One of the pioneers in the business, one of the pioneers in the hobby, and someone that I personally owe a huge debt of gratitude to. And he's still out there floating around in the South, right? And we wanted to bring him on today and talk shop with Gailen David, because he's got a ton of information buried in that bald head of his, and we want to get it out. So
it's all in those bookcases behind me.
Here we go, Gailen. So Gailen, how have you been, buddy? What's going on? What's new in your life?
Nothing. I'm moving to Georgia in about a week, and that's why the bookcases are all empty behind me. And I have very little to do with the German military anymore. I still get calls from guys asking, "Are you still in business?"
So Gailen, how long ago did you pull the plug on your website? Because you had your website
I pulled it over about 6 years ago.
6 years ago, and it was GDM Militaria or Gailen David Militaria.
GDM Militaria. Mm-hmm.
So that was a big name back in the day when you wanted a high quality dagger or something. That was one of the websites you were going to. Some of the older collectors will recognize that. So if you're looking for that site, it's no longer there. Gailen's still around, but his website is not. He officially retired, right? So
Yes.
What do you do now that you're retired, Gailen? What does daily life look like for the ex-military?
It's pretty darn boring, Dante. I mean, it's nothing going on. I mean, I go to bed at like 8:30 at night. I mean,
Hey, man, getting enough sleep is important.
I'm 82 years old now, and
Holy shit, 82. So That's a good segue into when the hell did you start? Because you didn't always do militaria, right, Galen?
Well, I did a lot of things in life, but the military really caught my interest in about 1967, 68.
67. How did you were just flipping?
Well, like anything else, when you collect this stuff, you have to have income coming in. So you automatically become a dealer before it's over with, just to support the habits. And
I think that's a huge thing. I think that's how most people get involved, because they're looking to, turn a $1 into $2. And it's like, well, I don't need this fucking War Merit Cross. I got 15 of them. Let me sell these and let me buy an EK2, and then the EK2 turns into a dagger, turns into whatever, and then all of a sudden you pick your avenue that you want to specialize in.
Yeah, specialization, I think, is especially with the prices of the merchandise today and the quality of the fakes and stuff. I just think that you've got to have specialization in some area where you can kind of put all your cookies in one basket.
Right.
And this stuff, and have a knowledge base, so you can, the people don't want to have the knowledge anymore. They just want to ask you on the internet, is this real?
Well, that's a great point. I had a question written down here, which is, you were a dealer before the internet was the monster that it's become now. So what was being a dealer like without the help of the internet? It's not something I've personally have ever known. I mean, I assume you were out there pounding the pavement.
Yeah. The thing is, you'd write all the lists up, you'd go and have copies made, you'd fold it up, put stamps on it, and mail it out in order to market. And it was by the time you got the advertisement to somebody with your list of items for sale, half of your items had already sold.
Oh gosh.
So you were wasting your time for half of the stuff that was on there.
So Galen, so that brings up a good question. So you're talking about mail order, basically mail order, right?
That's what it was.
A private mail order business. So you're doing that and shows? How many shows were you doing?
I was doing like at the max about 30 shows a year.
Holy
wow.
I mean, but that is the only way you could get your merchandise after this stuff started drying up. I mean, it was an amazing hobby back in the 60s. You'd get 25 Army daggers a month from vets.
When you say drying up, what era do you think things started drying up as far as the U.S. vets?
Bill, that's really Billy, that's a really neat question, because we thought it would never end. People's calling you and you're buying it and you're filling your car up with this stuff. I mean, it was just an amazing time. And then all of a sudden, you'd think it would peter off. It would go, I'm not getting half the calls this month, and 6 months from now, I'm getting 2/3 the calls. It just quit.
You're talking about before the internet?
Before what? Before
the internet, you noticed this drying up?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting to hear. I've heard people say that, things are drying up, and I've felt it myself in like the past 5-10 years. And it's crazy to think that was something we were experiencing as a community long before that.
That's true. It was an amazing time to be there, because the person who was buying this stuff from the vets got to see this stuff untouched. And it was a knowledge base that these younger collectors today, and the collectors in general today, they can't do that. We got all the experience hand on. I mean, we had the guy handing you an honor dagger, or we had the guy handing you a Panzer wraparound, a vet. I mean, so you saw it and you said, I know it's real.
Right.
I got it from the guy.
So you've talked about, you started in 67. I mean, that's barely 20 years after the war ended.
That's right.
When did you said things started drying up. Did that have correlation as the first time you started seeing fakes? I mean, obviously you're there throughout the entirety of it. When did you start seeing fakes? I mean, when did you first get fooled?
The real fakes probably came in the mid-70s.
Okay.
And when everybody saw there was a honeypot out there to steal from people and cheat people.
Well, also, Galen, in the mid 70s, you still had some producers that were still in business, like Eichhorn and some others.
Yeah,
So-
and those companies, when they went up for sale, when they sold them, we got all their sales literature from the Third Reich and a lot of parts from them.
But you would say it's a safe bet that they were sneaking stuff out the back door that was not legit.
After Eichhorn went out of business, a lot of stuff surfaced. One of them was the 38 bond chutes, the railway. They were making those. Did you ever notice that most of those you found in the breast steel scabbards, if you're familiar with that particular dagger, there were diagrams showing that it was possible, and Eichhorn was probably producing these 38 rails. They were they were original. They were just post-war assembled or post-war dies were used.
Is there anything else that you think they were doing? I mean,
The Tino Senior.
Tino's. Oh, yeah, Tino's. I've always said that.
That's the Hewer. The Hewer is what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
the Hewer. The
Hewer.
Hewer.
Yeah.
I think I had the diagrams for them too.
Yeah.
And,
That's insane.
Everybody was afraid that I was going to release this information.
Well, it's going to be on the internet pretty soon. So.
I know, but you know what the heck?
Hey, listen, you get to a certain point
It's the
where
truth.
things are just accepted as original now,
Mhm.
whether
Yeah,
they're questionable as
Like you'll see on the Tino Senior, you'll see stamp numbers.
And etched. Yeah.
And yeah. And on the Tino Junior is the ones that I think that the ones that had the acid etched numbers, I think they were post-war Eichhorn.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah, I mean, there's just too many of them that are.
I had
brand
the
new looking.
diagrams myself dated. I can't, but they were like dated like 72, 74. They were doing.
Oh
this.
wow, that's really surprising, actually.
Yeah, so that just complicates matters for the collectors today because things are starting to get washed out. Old histories, information's being dissolved. But let's go back to when you were a dealer in the 70s. Let's talk about areas of like stomping grounds, because I always think that this is when you talk about this, I think it's fun to talk about who had what areas in the country. So let's drop some names. Who was in charge of what areas of the country, and you kind of tried to stay out of their way.
What do you mean by in charge of?
Well, you were in Maryland, right?
Yeah, but I was competing with guys like Charles Snyder.
Oh, Snyder, that's a famous name.
Oh,
Everybody's heard of.
Infamous.
I got him for phone harassment because I was cutting into his area, and he figured he owned Washington, Maryland, and Virginia.
I think that's kind of what Dante's speaking of. I mean, there's Chicago collectors and dealers. There's
Well,
St. Louis.
you got Joseph Pankowski of the Midwest.
Yeah. And Schneider had good stuff too in his own right. And back in the day, I know
He couldn't help but have good stuff,
Yes.
but he made all his money on his fakes.
Right.
It was a salted table, like many guys today. You go down to their table or you look at their list and you say, that's bad, but that's good. That's bad.
So that's interesting. It used to be more of a like territory-based system for dealers.
Just
Oh
by
yeah,
default.
some of these guys would actually try to bar you from coming in their show, or they tell the dealers, don't sell to him. We don't want him coming back to our show here because we
Wow.
want to control everything that comes out of the woodwork in that area.
That's so I had never thought about that. And that's, I guess, another way that the internet and being more of like a global marketplace has really changed the hobby, because if that was the way people were doing business, that's a major adjustment. When it becomes, you can shop anywhere now from your house.
And another
Yeah,
thing,
it's an amazing thing, the internet, for what it's done to you guys.
it's also in a way has helped protect people because you have shared information of like, hey, that guy's bad. Don't deal with him. And you back in the day, you're cash and carry. If you got burned on a fake, you're fucked. At least now there's a little bit of recourse and there's a chance you might get your money back. So that's kind of a difference from the time you started.
But the thing is with these guarantees and everything that they put up, when do you stop owning this stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, when you sell something and 20 years go by and a guy comes back to you and says, I bought this Army dagger from you, and somebody says it's a parts dagger. I mean, how am I supposed to remember?
Well, parts is a fine line, because in theory that's original, but you're saying, you know, monkeyed with. I mean, so there's a fine line of is it a fake or is it a parts? I mean, so I get what you're saying.
Well, a parts dagger is put together of parts. It's not saying that all the parts are original. It's not saying that half the parts are original. If something's wrong on a piece, it's a parts dagger.
Right. Well, or if it's just bad, you know.
Or it's just bad. Yeah.
And this is a good time to bring up those pictures, Josh, of the black and white photos that we have of Gailen.
Alrighty, 1 second.
And Gailen will get a kick out of these. He's like, oh, he wasn't ready for this.
We do have some classics.
How cool you've aged a little bit since that photo, I think.
He's got hair. It's pretty amazing, actually.
I was sitting at a desk at Tommy Johnson's office for that. Yeah, that's where the picture came out of.
But look at that computer. Holy shit.
Probably worth more than the dagger. That's a collectible.
I look at that computer. You're focusing on the wrong thing. That's a beautiful shirt.
I do like that shirt too.
That's hilarious. So this was which reference was this from? Do we have a picture of which reference? Oh, that's the earlier one.
Right. So I have two different
That's where I bleached my hair one time. Everybody thought I was gay or something.
That's a good look. It's a strong look, Gailen.
He looks like a movie star. I mean, he could be, you know. I mean, Gailen. So
I could have been a contender.
So talk to the viewers about the relationship between you and Johnson and how that started and when did it start?
Well, Tom, how did I end up? He used to live 20 minutes from me early in his career. And he would call me up at 8 o'clock in the evening. Can you come over and look at the water customs for me and tell me if it's real? Johnson really wasn't a true expert on the daggers. He was a good administrator, and he found other guys all of his books are done in chapter forms where somebody else wrote the chapters.
Oh God. I love his books because it's great material, but they're not organized the way you would expect a modern reference to be organized.
Well, and considering that back then, when he first came out with Collecting Edge Weapons of the Third Reich, Volume 1, before that, we had no reference books on daggers. We had cheap little
piece of shit paperbacks
with line drawings. They didn't even find.
You know what's crazy about those references? Those are actually collectible themselves now. They don't sell for much, but you find those old paperback references. You know, even though they're useless from a collecting standpoint, from a reference
they are
standpoint,
collectible.
They're commanding, $30-40 on their own.
But they were commanding more than that. The bottom is completely out of the reference books.
Now Johnson's reference books you can pick up for $10 a pop.
Oh, I know.
That's
even Repo Recognition by Frederick Stevens. That book was going for $250.
Wow.
Now you can buy that thing for $65.
You could buy that for $5. I mean, that's not an expensive piece of material these days.
So I have a question for you, Gailen. With so much specialization in edged weapons, one of the things that I know a lot of collectors here, and I've heard from a lot of collectors in the time that I've been doing this, is that daggers are an investment. I remember the first time I went to a Militaria show and I was talking to a gentleman, and he said, always buy the nicest dagger you can afford whenever you see it. And then, one day when you're, 30, 40 years down the line, sell them all in one day and buy a house. So in your professional opinion, do you agree that daggers are an investment in the hobby because they hold so much value?
I think they are. I think they've always, the front runner in the hobby has always been SS. SS cloth, SS daggers and swords are I consider that the primo investment in the hobby is the SS edge weapons.
Have you seen the values go past a point now that is like surprising for you as somebody that's been dealing with this
I
so
didn't
long?
think I'd ever say this, but yeah, I mean, when you see a chained SS going for $11,500, I am stunned. But I remember when Whitman interviewed me one time, and he had an SS. I don't remember how long ago it was, but he had an SS chained, and he says, it was showing it to me. I says, yeah, you're going to see these chained SSs go for $2,500 or more. And he said,
my
"Here, you
gosh.
heard it here. You heard it here. They're going to be going." And now look, I mean, we didn't even
2,500. You'd buy them by the suitcase if you could
Wow.
find them for that, right?
That's in
Yeah.
the premium section of people's websites now. That's nuts.
And Himmlers or unbound Roans and stuff in the SS bracket. I mean, they're just, 18,000 for a medium grade Himmler presentation dagger. A friend of mine just sold one for I think he got 16 grand for it, and it wasn't a mint one.
The last one I sold, I got 12,995. I got 13 for it. It was a nice one, but again, with those, you always have the chipped handles because they were always tightened so much. So,
Well, it's also the ebony, the grade of ebony that was used in those. The expansion and contraction, they were porous.
Mhm.
And that grip, the expansion and contraction caused the cracks. That's why you always see them with the little frazzled chipping.
yeah, the
along
edges
top.
against the guard. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mhm.
So this is a great segue into talking about your specialization. And Gailen, you've always told me that you really specialized in SS blades. So why SS blades? Is it just because of the money, or just because no one else knew what they were looking at and you had an eye for it? Why did you get into that?
Well, I just knew that SS was the top thing you could get. I got it from just buying from vets. You'd buy 25 Armies, 25 little seconds, 10 Navies, and maybe in 6 months you get one SS piece.
One nice SS, yeah.
Yeah. So you knew they were tough. They were tough to get. And that always equates into money. I mean, if they're tough to get, you're going to have to pay more for one.
Do you have anything left in the collection?
I have one SSEM.
Okay.
I had 14 Himmlers in my collection. and 29 SSEMs, all in mint condition, all early makers. And then I had maybe 6 to 12 SS officer swords. And they were all pristine stuff. They were the stuff that I heard about you, Billy. That you like that creme de la creme, and you'll pay for it.
I do. I'm that same way with women too. I look, you know what I mean? It's just me.
He likes the cream. It's true.
Yeah, but that's a great way to be. If you're going to buy a dagger and start in daggers, start at the high end daggers and go down. Because
it's harder to find those high end.
Quality over quantity is a simple mind.
Sure.
When it comes to daggers.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, to see an SSEM in excellent condition by Eichhorn or by Boker.
It's breathtaking. They're
gorgeous. But you see, those things, I knew a guy who just bought an SS enlisted dagger for $9,500.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. I remember when a Boker was $250.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
Hitler Youth knives $4.
$4.
$4.
How about Arm Cross second class is in the packet with the tissue. $4.
Oh my god.
So one thing that I've always been, people ask me can you explain why certain things have gone up in value more than others? And I think that the internet and the available information has pushed the values of a lot of things up, and type collectors are really getting into the hobby hardcore because the information is out there. So let's take SA daggers. Before, SA daggers nobody cared, right, Gailen? Back in the day, they literally are the most common dagger. No one really bought them.
They are hot.
They are hot. But why are they hot? Because of the fact that now the general public has information about how many makers there were, and the different periods of construction. So now it's like a freaking a Pikachu. You got to catch them all, right? So everyone's like, shit, I want that maker, that maker, that maker, that maker, that maker. And then that starts driving the price through the freaking roof.
Yeah, this maker stuff used to drive me crazy because, I mean, they would make self-determined things about a Boker, about how it was made, and I would not agree with a lot of the stuff that was out there. The only time I ever got involved in a major controversy on SS Daggers is the serrated, 9-serrated tail Himmlers.
You're talking about the Eichhorn logo itself, correct, for viewers? The Eichhorn logo?
The logo, yeah.
Yes, correct. Go ahead.
Oh, the Eichhorn. So you're talking about the Eichhorn tail. All right, I got you.
Yeah,
I'm
the
on the same
serrated
page.
tail.
Yeah, I'm on the same page now.
But like Johnson put in his first volume that they made 500 or 1,000 of them. They probably sold.
Yeah, I look at those old references that tell you the estimated quantities. I'm like, well, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah, I felt like the serrated tail were the earlier ones, and the Himmler daggers given later were the non-serrated tail.
Correct, but they are both original, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, but these guys are going, oh, well, which one is real? This one's not real. I bought many, many, many Himmlers, and I knew them like the back of my hand. I mean, I knew that they usually put 4 or 5 coats of lacquer on the scabbard, and they got it over everything. That's why they turned yellow. If you ever see a Himmler that's untouched, it's got a yellow hue to it.
Oh, that makes sense.
I can spot one across a room.
What is that one thing that you always kind of wish you owned, but never got a chance to get in your collection?
There's only one dagger I never owned, was a Naval Honor dagger.
A Naval Honor dagger.
All the rest of the daggers, all the rest of the honor daggers, I've got from vets.
That's crazy. Could you imagine getting a phone call and be like, hey, I got an honor dagger, it just came out of a case, like whatever. Like that doesn't happen anymore. Now they're buried in these giant collections, and you got to know someone to get in there. You know what I mean?
I was at a vet's house, and he had an SA high leader dagger, and he was raving about it. And I was going, well, if you think it's that nice of a piece, why don't you keep it? With no intent in my heart was I ever leaving that house without that dagger. Right? But I kept playing it down. I said, hey, keep it. I'll buy this other stuff. And why don't you just keep that dagger? And he kept saying, but don't you think it's beautiful? It's got to be worth some good money. And I did it. In the end, he says, make me an offer. And I says, I'll give you. I was so excited about getting the damn thing. I bid more than I should have at the time. But I says, I'll give you $2,000.
Cry me a fucking river on your $2,000.
Yeah, but he only sold it for like 3, right? So
yeah, I sold it for 5.
Okay, so
that's good money.
But at the same time, you're not making. He's not making 20 grand. You know what I mean? Like,
but but he threw the dagger at me. He said, $2,000. You own it.
You own it. Go for it. Go for it. Well, I think dealers get a bad rap, right? Because listen,
a lot of them are crooks. That's why.
No,
hey, he's right. No, he's right. They are crooks.
But let's be honest. A dealer's job is to buy low and sell high. Like that's it.
Of course.
Our job is to buy low and sell high. That's what we're trying to do. Now, at the same time, as a dealer, you're not trying to mislead someone, and you're not trying to just blatantly lie to them. However, if they say, well, what would you pay? Well, I would only pay this. And you're hoping to get them to bite on that, right? So you can have a better margin.
Look, I'm not going to make myself look good here.
Here we go.
Because I've done as many. I used to take my daughter with me, and she'd go, Daddy, you better not buy that stuff. Mommy's going to really be bad. I mean, it was a planned act. We went in, and they go, oh, well, they got the stuff for nothing. The vets did, and they go, "Oh, well, just give me $100."
Yeah,
for a whole pile of stuff, but it was all I mean, I've done some really underhanded things in this hobby, but there was no rules.
There was no
that I was
rules.
doing.
There was no internet to smear your name across anything.
What did you used to spend in advertising costs back in the day? Out of like, let's use a round number of like, if $100 is your budget, how much of your budget did you do radio? That was another question I had. Go ahead, please.
Did I what?
Do radio as well as newspapers, or how did you?
No. Most radio stations didn't want the ads. I mean, even though you played it up, said buying American, Japanese, and other World War II war relics, cash paid.
So the stigma was still there, even back in the 60s. And
Oh yeah, and I was hoping I'd live long enough to see this stuff like eBay and not letting them sell Third Reich stuff. They let you sell Japanese stuff. Goddamn.
Yeah.
And they executed our troops, and I 100% with everything you're going down that path.
Right.
Yeah, it's just it's ridiculous. Anyway, I thought that the hobby with time would be like the Civil War. You weren't collecting the North or the South. You were just collecting Civil War.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Nobody threw you out of the show or something because you were selling Nazi stuff, which happened a lot of time. It's gun shows back then.
That's interesting. I would have thought gun shows were actually more friendly to it.
Safe haven.
The high class gun show didn't want it.
Gotcha.
The armory gun shows or that kind of stuff, or a little military association like Cincinnati, the OVMS show when it was this is going way back when they were but when they weren't even in Cincinnati, there were some little building. I mean, I had a roadmap to get there, but we used to go. That was a show you never missed. Was that show? A lot of great items came out of that area.
Yeah. I'm surprised to hear that there was as much of a stigma back then as there is now. I feel like that the visibility has not helped, which is a shame. But that was actually one of my questions. That did you receive criticism as a dealer back in the day?
Well, I'll tell you how bad it was. You move into a really nice neighborhood and you get close to your friends, and usually I wouldn't mention what I did for a living.
Yeah, you got to play that close to your chest.
And I made a mistake of showing a couple of the neighbors some of the stuff I had, and all of a sudden the calls stopped for the Christmas parties and for the get-togethers.
Oh God!
Oh wow!
And my poor wife was, because it was a social thing. This community we were in, it was a gated community, and all of a sudden we were kind of like outlawed from the
outcast. Yeah,
we were outcasts. That's the word.
Yeah.
We were just outcasts. And one guy said to me, he says, "Oh, you know what he does? He sells that Nazi stuff." And I says, "Well, when you walk out the door," I says, "I'm going to come out. I'm going to knock all your teeth down your throat."
We've all felt that way before.
This is a great segue, knocking teeth down your throat. Talk to us, the viewers, about your past as a martial arts expert, because this is great stuff.
Well, I got a few black belts, but the last black belt I got was in 1982.
82.
And I was teaching fighting techniques until maybe 10 years ago. And I started noticing that if I got a sprained ankle or a sprained wrist, that it took a year to get better.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I said, this has got to stop. And my wife at the time she says, "It's time for you to give this stuff up."
Yeah.
And it's hard to walk. It's like professional boxers. You know how they never quit until they're beaten to death? And,
So I have a question. Since you're a martial artist, have you ever fought Neil Harden? That's what I want to know.
I have, I knew him for many, many years. Didn't even know he was in martial arts.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is.
He's a top flight guy. Well, it was funny.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you a cute story. I was walking. I was drunk. That's what I was.
There we go. That's going to be
happens to the best of me.
It's Cincinnati, and Harden and Emily Caldwell Stewart were walking down the thing, and I came up on Neil, and he was kind of like strolling on, and I grabbed him just in a bear hug, face to face. And the next thing I knew, he squeezed my testicles very hard. and I let go. I said, "Neil."
I did not know we were going to go there.
I said, "Neil, nice job." I says, I didn't know. And he says, oh, yeah. I mean, obviously, I would have never put myself in that position if I had known he had knowledge.
Wait. So squeezing the testicles is like the
Yeah.
absolute best way to respond to a bear hug.
Oh,
Oh my God, I'm crying. Oh, Jesus Christ.
that's the best way to get out.
So
of
what
the
was
barrel.
Emily Caldwell Stewart doing with you? Because if viewers don't know, she's a paperwork expert. She's published a bunch of things on paperwork.
Yeah.
I actually had a whole collection of Knight's Cross signatures that she had owned. They're still on the website, by the way, smgwarlocks.com, smg-warlocks. Anyways, yeah, she's a big name in the paperwork stuff. So what were you doing with her?
She got messed up in a document. The Berlin document center, all the documents being stolen out of there, all the SSID cards.
Yeah.
And she spent a couple of days in a German prison.
No shit.
Wow.
Whoa.
Because of that. And then, of course, it caused her to be strip searched every time she went into Germany or came out. They made you pay for it.
She was on the naughty list.
Did that stuff. She was married to a shady character, to say the least.
Well, how old is Emily? I don't think I've ever met her, but I think her website is still
she's
up.
probably late 60s.
Yeah, she's younger than I am.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting stuff.
I have a question for you, Gailen. What was the first piece of militaria that you got as a collector? What inspired you to collect?
That is, and I thought you might ask that. My first wife had a mother who was an antique dealer.
That's a good connection.
But it was just a strange thing. And she called me and said, a man just walked in and I bought this bag of German stuff from him and I gave him $80. If you want it, you can just give me $80. And I got, and it was a NSDAP flag, big one, wool flag with the big wool patch, and a political pole. What do you call it?
Pop eagle or eagle?
The finial.
Yeah, and a bunch of little pins and medals and an armband and this and that. But I went, wow, this is pretty neat shit. I wonder if I can find out what this stuff is worth. There was no information. Nobody knew what it was.
Yeah, you were left to your own devices.
Yeah, you were. And that's when you got taken a lot of times later on, because I started advertising in all the major newspapers. Washington Post was my major newspaper that I bought. And I used to I had so many calls sometimes, I had to have a diagram of how I was going to go to one home and this would go over here a half a mile.
Map
and go
it
to
out.
this home.
Yeah, you had to map it out.
I'm trying to wrap my head around a time when the Washington Post would take an ad for buying German militaria. That
They
sounds
never looked at the classifieds. They never. I mean, if you'd have probably run a bigger ad,
yeah,
they'd have latched onto you. But I left the German out of it a lot of times. I did sneak it in. Sometimes I'd say German, Japanese, or Nazi Japanese, because that usually drew attention immediately.
Yeah. That makes sense. I used to tell me that, like, I mean, once you would run one of these ads, then you would map out where you were going to go. And you had like a Volkswagen or something, and you would just go around and fill up the trunk. I mean, it was insane.
One time I do remember where the word, I couldn't get anything in there. He had like 10 of the, a box of the reversible camo,
Marcus.
Yeah, those heavy duty jobs. The guy had all of them had the RBM numbers on them. I mean, it was just brand new. I bought Panzer wraparounds, brand new with the tags.
Taylor paper label. Yeah,
that's amazing.
The paper label. Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
And you shouldn't see that stuff back then. Even I imagine one of those would probably bring 25 grand now. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's big money.
You were talking about filling up the Volkswagen, kind of like a delivery driver for pizza. You would just kind of make your route and keep going.
Yes, that's what you did. I mean, you were just getting so much stuff. So much stuff.
Jesus
And you had to sell that. I mean, I was working, I had a house payment and stuff. I couldn't take all my money and buy German stuff and sit there and go, oh, that's so pretty. I had a standard. I picked up the standard with the eagle, with the big, huge
Oh,
eagle
wow,
on the
yeah.
wall
Oh God.
for Dusseldorf.
Oh, that's a big name too.
Yeah, and that the last time it sold, it went for 45,000. I got it for $75.
That's
Oh
cool.
my
though.
gosh,
You originally thought it. You got to see its progression of value go up.
Wow.
That is
What
a
the
cool
hell?
thing.
And
That's a-
just to be able to handle all this stuff, that's stuff that people would dream of being able to say. Oh, this is the stuff that people will go to a military show now and they'll take a picture of it on somebody else's table and say, look what I got to see.
Look what I got to see.
I
Yeah,
remember being offered Himmler's chained SS dagger. It has a different. It's routed like the regular SS honor dagger, but all the fittings are 800 marked. And anyway,
Well, I guess if we were going to ask you, what do you regret not buying? It probably would be that.
well, I would have had to trade away a great portion of my collection back then.
You wouldn't have had the cash flow to make it work anyway.
Get it, and I says, I love my collection. I really want the Himmler dagger. And
At the time, you wouldn't have been able to flip it for that much more. So
yeah, at the time, and it was. I mean, what would I? It was $65,000.
Oh my gosh.
I'd mortgage my house and buy it.
You get a $500,000 for that now.
Easily.
Yep.
What was your favorite pull out of the woodwork? Not necessarily the most valuable. What was your favorite pull out of the woodwork?
Got a lot of big ones.
Which one made you're just like, wow, I really like this. This is cool. It doesn't have to have a huge dollar amount.
Well, all that stuff has to go together. You can't.
Sure. Well, right. Okay, fine. Fair enough. But
yeah,
let's not split hairs and say this one was more than the other.
SS honor dagger
An SS honor dagger
in mint condition,
mint.
out of Virginia or something. They came to my house with it. They had been offered $10,000 for it by Snyder, and they had lost his number.
That's
So that's the truth. I would have never got it.
Bait.
And when they came to my house, I said, I'll give you $25,000 for it. And I had to ride up to the bank. It was like 5 minutes to 12. I had to ride, and they were locking up. And I knocked on there, and I was a good customer. And I knocked. I said, you gotta let me get 25 grand.
oh my gosh.
Because if I'd have waited through the weekend,
You wouldn't have got it.
They would have found Snyder's number again.
Or some other guy.
So
or Whitman would have been waiting in the wings.
Got to get me 25. And they gave me $25,000. I came back and bought it, and I sold it for $125.
Wow.
That's a good win right there.
That's a win for the good guys, because we all know
damn.
Charlie Schneider has ripped people off exponentially, and I mean, he wasn't ripping people off for $5. I mean, he was taking.
He called me at my home 50 times a night, and then I had the police do a trace, and they found out it was Snyder.
Wow.
No
But the worst mistake I made is I didn't. My wife at the time said, he's an older man. You don't want to prosecute him. And I went, oh, okay, hon, I won't do it. In retrospect, I should have actually shot him.
Should have nailed his ass to the wall.
Or been part of the firing squad at least.
You could have killed him with your hands as a martial artist, but also
That's true.
you would have done so many favors.
I mean, let's change gears here a little bit because we could go on forever with this. Let's save it for another episode. Let's change gears.
I have to interrupt you.
What?
The SS honor swords I picked up were high on the list. I picked up 3.
3.
I had Bowlers, who was the first secretary to
Bowler, yeah. With the little round glasses.
Yeah. You are something.
That's
right. But I had that, and I had that was just, and there were different grades of these honor swords. I mean, they were all honor swords, Damascus blades, but the higher off guys had the better Damascus blade.
Oh, okay.
Way more.
Really?
They were still star proofed and everything, silver marked.
They were gifts, right? The birthday swords.
Yeah. on their 50th birthday.
But he gave better items to
yeah,
guys.
because like the guy who's head of the Veterans Association.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, well, either did I until you go out and you see
You
him.
look at handle him.
Wow, how many people have the ability to take two honor swords and lay them side by side and compare them?
Yeah, the
that's a
answer
good
is
point.
like 0.0%. Yeah. Yeah, right.
Oh, what was it? Now, what were you going to ask?
Oh, so we're going to switch gears a little bit. Jesus, we've been talking a while here. I told you, Galen's a great guest. This is good stuff. Let's switch gears to Josh brought up in one of the earlier episodes. He started talking about the old meetings that we would have.
Oh, the parties.
The parties in the hotel rooms,
They
which
were
is
legendary.
they're
We
legendary, and
started-
they still happen, but to a lesser extent.
Oh,
Not
there's Walter
like we
Kanzler
had.
on the right.
Yeah.
I see Kanzler in the room.
So
not like we had. I mean, in those days,
so I
Walter
dug these-
Chancellor. That was Walter Chancellor. That was
Walter. Yeah.
that was that girl's husband at the
So
time.
who
Emily.
invited? So let me say, who invited that guy into the
There's
room? Because he's got a
Boyle.
bad rap.
That was Boyle in the other. There's Boyle.
Where's Boyle?
Done. That's
Well,
the
no,
that's
that's-
the honor ring. That's
My dad is in the dead center in the back, right?
That's where he always sat.
He liked that spot, huh?
One that his father always sat in one place. He never got up the entire night unless he had to take a leak.
It kind of runs in the family. We hang out with Dante in hotel rooms now. He does
And
the
I
same
can
thing.
guarantee you,
Oh,
I
stop.
can guarantee you, if you pull up this shirt, there's a 38 revolver snub nose there.
Shut your face. He didn't have a
Wow.
38.
Look at
Yes,
the
he
photo.
did. Yes, he did.
No.
I had a video with him doing it, just horsing around.
Oh well, I never saw it. Wait, a snub nose? Oh, wait, I'm
He's the Gambino. What do you expect him
I'm
to do?
trying-
No. They're saying he wouldn't have carried that, but he
wait,
did.
a revolver?
Yeah, it was a revolver.
I don't know where
He
I've
needed
never
something-
seen it.
He
never
wanted
seen
something small.
He was
I've never
carrying
seen
around
it.
a lot of cash, Dante. Come
Yeah,
Hey,
on.
look,
right.
he's dressed like a goddamn mafioso with the tricolor shirt on and the freaking jogging
Let me-
pants.
let me-
My
let
dad
me-
never jogged a half mile in his life.
I want to say that he became one of my closest and dearest friends. And I can honestly say that he was one of the nicest, kindest people that I ever met. We were good
Yeah,
friends.
he
One
was
time
a good dude.
I was drinking vodka out of a champagne bucket with orange juice in it. And I was at this party, not another party, and I'm drinking it. And Chip called me and he says, "You look like a fool. Put that thing down. You know what? You're an important guy here." He
Freak a
says,
screwdriver like a man.
"Yeah." He says, "Don't be drinking out of that bucket. Put it in a glass."
Oh my
Just-
gosh.
just make- I mean, he would lecture me, you know.
Oh,
No
God.
glass, no class. That's what they
No-
say.
No class, no.
And
So,
thank you very much.
so Galen, who is in this picture right here? Who's the dude in the background? I don't know who
That is Andy Merez, one of my closest and dearest friends. He is the one who put on these parties with me.
Okay,
And he was probably the most intelligent guy I've ever known. And
really?
he was one of my close, died of pancreatic cancer, like everybody's dying of.
Yeah, pancreatic
gosh.
cancer, you don't come back from.
No, he got they say, hey, when they find it, you got 4 months.
Oh,
Ooh,
it's a
shit.
shame.
All
It's
right,
a
go
shame.
back, Josh. Go back to the other picture.
All right.
Let's see if we can identify some of these old cats here. 'cause
All
I don't
right.
know.
If you got more than those two pictures.
That's all
it's
I
just
get.
these two. Who do we got?
Chancellor, Walter Chancellor, Boyle.
Boyle's on the down left,
Yeah.
right? Walter
I
down
don't
right.
remember who-
Right.
I don't remember who he is.
So who's the dude with his chin on his wrist, on his
I
hand?
don't know who he is. I mean, I knew him at the time, but he wasn't a close friend or anything.
We can't really see the guy behind him. Any
Is
ideas?
there any more pictures of this, or is that the only one?
This
you
is
got?
all like, dude. These are old pictures I dug out of a freaking file cabinet I found.
Well, Galen, would you do this again? I mean, obviously we're having a good time, but maybe we do a couple episodes with you. Obviously, this is a real treat for us.
Yeah.
Well,
So Galen's in the middle.
I mean, I really like it. I'm sure there's a million stories that I would like to tell you. You know, but you know.
This is good stuff.
Oh.
So Galen, why don't listen? Let's wrap it up here. But we want to have you back on, but you got to go through and find some of these old pictures.
Well,
events
I
like
told
that.
you what I told you on the phone. When I packed everything up to move, I
Yeah,
given
yeah.
a lot of those pictures away, I mean, I don't even know how many I have.
So,
Well,
The
hey,
next-
we're happy to see any of them.
the next episode has to be titled Galen Unpacked, and we'll see it all.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you want to hear one little quick thing?
Of course we do.
Sure.
This is really a good one. Johnson would get upset with our parties because I would put a sign on the door that said no French or Belgian collectors allowed.
That's still a good rule.
That's a good rule. I like
Yeah.
it.
I have no comment to that sign.
When he came up and he was coming to the party himself, and he says, Galen. He says, this is really bad. This is an international show. And I says, Tom, I'll tell you what, pal. I says, I'll take that sign down. All you got to do is just go down to the front desk with me and pay for my rooms.
Ooh, man. Put the money on the table.
And Tom
Sure,
says,
you do what you want.
well, I guess they're not coming. Because he wasn't going to come off the money to pay for their rooms.
That's hilarious,
And then,
man.
and in closing, I was buying a chained SS at a Mac show. It was a Mac show. And this French lawyer kept reaching around. I would say, okay, I'll take that. And I'm going to look at something else. And he's reaching over. And I says, I'm buying that dagger, please. I'll show it to you after the deal's over. And he goes, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, wait. And he came up again and put his hand in there. Well, the last time he did it one more time, and I went like this, boom, elbowed him right in his solar plexus. And he went down like a big bag of potatoes. He just went plop on the floor. And he ran up after he got.
More like
What I did was I went, somebody get an ambulance or something. I think this guy may be having a heart attack. and he went up and later and complained to Johnson that I should be thrown out in his country. They would have arrested me. And Johnson came up to me and here's what he says, Galen, please don't beat up the foreign collectors. But you know what guys have said? I never forgot a dagger. If I sold a dagger 25 years ago and you brought it and handed it to me, I can say I sold this dagger.
Oh my God.
It's a weird thing about it. I mean, my friends actually think it's so neat because I'll go, I bought that 25 years ago at a gun show here or there. I just never forget those pieces. I mean, I loved this hobby dearly. I mean, I loved edge weapon collecting. I think it was a fascinating ride.
It's your passion, man. It's your calling.
But I couldn't deal with, I got to the point where I couldn't deal with foreign collectors. I couldn't deal with traveling to the shows. I'd lose my wallet, lose my damn credit card, forget where the hotel was, and it was time to quit.
Understandable. Well, you had a great ride, man. Let's wrap things up. Yeah, Josh, anything in closing? Billy, anything in closing you want to touch on?
No, I just want to say thank you. I mean, as a true dinosaur, no offense, you certainly made this hobby what it is, and you were one of the pioneers. And
well, I don't know about that.
Well, we would.
That's the truth, though.
Us three would not be here without guys like you who started beating the bushes and finding this shit and creating a market for it. And I mean, it's so amazing. It's such a fun hobby. So many great people, so many dickheads too. But you just
for every 10 good people, there's one asshole.
Or the other way around.
Well, no, I always say that good people in the room at a show are rarer than anything on any of the tables. When we interview you again, because we absolutely need to, I would like to talk about Jim Atwood and what he was doing. I would also like to.
Stop.
I put some of those daggers together in Alexandria, Virginia.
I know. Believe me, I know.
This is a rabbit hole. This is a rabbit hole. We're not going down right now. Stop. We're going to wrap this up. It's been a long episode as it is. We're going to wrap it up.
How long have we been doing this?
Over an hour, easily. Josh, what do you got to say?
45 minutes.
What do you got to say to wrap this up?
Well, Galen, I want to say thank you for coming on. Obviously, he's got a wealth of information, and it's just been fascinating to hear these stories, especially the early days of collecting, and it's great to know, where the hobby came from, honestly, and to hear it from a professional.
Great stuff. All right, guys.
Thank you. Hey, and I want to thank you guys for being so kind and allowing me to come on here. And I'm not just saying that because, most people don't give a shit.
We all give a shit, buddy.
We do, and you know what? So do the people on YouTube. So they're going to be excited to hear these stories as well, and we're excited to have you back on in the future.
I look forward to some great comments in the comments section, all talking about how great Gailen was. It's going to come. We're going to share them with you, Gailen, and we're going to get you on again in the near future. Don't worry. So thanks, buddy.
You better hurry up. They're dropping like flies.
Fucking, you got another 10 years in you. Good Lord, Jesus Christ.
Gailen, thank you very much.
All right, Gailen, thanks for being on, man. We appreciate it. Love you, buddy.
Bye, buddy.
All right,
see ya. So that was our interview with Gailen David. I thought it was great.
Oh, man, Gailen's a great dude. I told you guys, I talk to Gailen just about every week, once or twice a week. And I told you guys the amount of stories and history that this guy has locked away in his brain. We got to get him on, and we got to get this information out there and these stories out there, because when guys like Gailen are gone, they're gone forever, man. We need that stuff on digital, on YouTube, to stay with the community and just share these fantastic stories with the rest of the collecting world. So awesome stuff.
When I had my internal algorithm of like, where do I want to go every day on the internet to go hunt, right? I was throwing something at this GDM military with Gailen David, because he didn't know much about badges. So I was kind of a shark, and, he used to underprice the badges. And I got some great stuff from him over the years. I didn't get to ask him in the interview, like, when did you start your website? Because he was one of the pioneers, in theory, to have a nice military website. He was. Good stuff, and he always had good updates. And again, what an honor to speak to him. And he's a great dude.
It'll be something we can ask him next time. I personally was really surprised about the stigma question. When he was saying that, he faced the stigma as well, I thought maybe we had increased visibility, and that's where some of the stigma comes from. And obviously there's political climate, but it's pretty interesting to hear somebody who's been doing it for as long as he has say that it's something he dealt with all along.
Yeah, it's probably not something we're going to see go away in the near future. It's going to be something we're going to deal with probably for our lifetime. But maybe, in our kids' lifetime, in the next generation, it might start to fade away. But, as long as
Dante, real quick, what is 302 on your head? Is that an area code, or what is it?
Yeah, 302 is the area code in my domain down in Delaware. Yeah. So I'm a big 914 guy, because I was born and raised in New York, in Westchester County area. But now that I've transplanted down to Delaware, now I'm 302. So I'm proud of both. 302 representing, a little horseshoe crab there. So yeah.
What was the other one? 912?
914. That's
914. Maybe you could get one that says both. I mean,
yeah. I don't know. It'd be weird. Maybe I just wear one on one day, one on the other day. Who knows?
Man, you're an equal opportunity supporter.
That's right.
Well, speaking of hats, guys, to round out the episode here, and I say speaking of hats because I'm going to start with a hat, but it's spoiler alert. We're going to play a little What's on Your Desk. Because we haven't done it in a while. I think we did it in the first episode, but it is kind of one of those things. There's always something interesting on your desk or around your desk. And I would like to start off with this hat that I got here from Kyle Kellner. You guys know Kyle. We love Kyle.
Talk about Kyle too. This is just too weird. Go ahead.
I'm a big Kyle guy. I've been friends with Kyle for years. Me and Kyle go back. I mean, just like you guys do. And recently he got a great set, like a huge lot of various visor caps from around the world and I saw this one in there, and I was like, I absolutely have to have it. I don't know if it's obvious to anybody at home, but it is a Transnistria visor. And
Transnistria, just a little sliver of a country next to Ukraine.
Exactly. Yeah. Separatist republic, illegitimate republic, depending on who you ask. If you ask the UN, then it's not a real country, but it's right there on the edge of Moldova. And it's wild, for those of you who may not be super, I guess, interested in Transnistria, it doesn't come up in your daily conversations. They still use the hammer and sickle to this day. I mean, they're a pro-Russian separatist republic. Obviously, they romanticize the Soviet Union and the times, but short of like North Korea, it's probably one of the only places that you can go to see the prominent images of socialism everywhere. It's still a little, they're not Soviet in their government, but they still use all the same insignia. So that's my What's on Your Desk, or what's next to your desk share of the day.
What era is that? Is that like 60s or what is it?
Oh no, brother, it's modern.
Oh.
The country itself is not that old. So that's what makes it interesting to me, is it's modern use of the hammer and sickle, but not because the Soviet ideology is their government system, but more so, I think, tradition. And obviously,
Yeah, because it looks like something from the 60s. If it is modern, they haven't progressed in like 50 years because it's fucking communism. But anyway, it is a nice looking hat.
they're not communists, but they don't have a lot of resources. And one of the interesting things, if you guys look it up, and I, maybe I'll put a picture of it like right here, is their currency, at least for a time, was plastic, which was interesting, and it looked like poker chips. So it's if you go on YouTube, you can find travel YouTubers will sometimes go to Transnistria and show what it's like. It's a wild place, and just an interesting thing, a modern piece, but something you don't see every day. And I think it's for like a traffic cop or something. But honestly, this is one of those things where, as Gailen was talking about, we didn't have all this information available. I don't have all the Transnistria information, but still interesting. What do you got for me? What do you got for me, Bill?
Well, so coincidentally, a couple of, like you were talking about Kyle. Kyle doesn't work with me anymore, but however, it's like, hey man, can I just pay you as a contractor? And he's listed in the last week, like 400 items in the inventory, like just a ton, just threw up a ton of shit for me. So that's really cool that we can kind of still help each other out. On my desk, I have a 1932 Mein Kampf, which is that's I don't know if you're familiar with the history, but he didn't take power till 33, so 32 is kind of a cool thing. And I also have this Army Standard Bearers Gorget with the chain, but the chain's a little short, so I am looking perfectly, being upfront. I do see a break in the weld, so I think this chain has been shortened over the years. When it was originally sold by a competing dealer, they failed to mention that. I don't know why the buyer didn't go back and offer it to him for sale, or maybe they did and I offered more, but I got that in this week. Beautiful. That's not easy to come by.
Nice piece, man.
Yeah, it is. It's a yunker. I mean, it's what it needs to be, but that is what is in theory on my desk, buddy.
Did you find anything interesting in that Mein Kampf? You find any like handwritten notes or anything cool like that?
No, but when I photograph it, this is a little known tidbit about me. I always photograph the page 420 because it was his birthday, and it's kind of a relevant thing.
It's also the funny weed number.
Ooh, the whole 420, baby.
Wow, Bill did not appreciate the funny weed number joke.
Well,
he didn't go anywhere with that.
Sorry.
It was like Hitler was a huge Sublime fan. That's the other thing you don't know.
He was smoking bowls in the bunker with freaking his boys. He's like, hit this, Goebbels.
But dude, that was the one question I wanted to ask Gailen was, do you think that the Ava Braun panties that Snyder sold were ever real?
No, they were never. Can we talk about the 420 thing though? Like, was the 420 the pot thing a thing before Hitler? Like, how far back does it actually go?
No.
It goes to like 1986 or something, probably.
It was
why
like,
did they make it that? Why is that the day? Code?
As far as I know, and this is like deep, like I don't, urban legend type shit. But I thought it was like the time of day that these people would always meet at.
Yeah, it's a time thing.
Yeah, and that's why at 8:40 you get twice as high.
That's crazy. I never heard that.
I never knew. I don't smoke.
That's not true, Josh.
I don't smoke either. I never touch the stuff, and I never would. It's my employer. So Dante, what about you, buddy? What do you got on your desk over there?
I got something nice for you guys. I don't know if you can I hold this up? I got a
whoa!
I got a quartet of gold and silvers Luftwaffe clasps.
There.
Yeah, dude, one with a bar too. Can I get a good shot of it? Sorry, I'm trying to make this work here. And I'll tell you, this deal was a pain in the ass because I know there's other dealers fishing for this deal. And there was only 2 clasps in the first deal. And he showed a picture of all this other shit, right? And he's like, you can't just have the 2 clasps. I know they're worth blah, 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 blah. You got to buy everything. So I had to go through and look at the whole goddamn collection of just like $20 and $30 and $40 items and be like, oh, how much is this whole and we're talking about like multiple Rikers worth of crap. And I'm like adding them all up. I'm like, can I make my money back if I offer him face value, like retail for the clasps, and then make my money back on all the $30 and $40 items, like trying to figure out a way to make this deal work. And that was just on the first 2, right? So we make a deal on the first 2 with the collection. And then like literally I pay him, he sends me a thing. Oh, it's in the mail. And then like 12 hours later, he's like, hey, I got another collection of crap with 2 more nice clasps in it. And I'm like, dude, can we? Why couldn't you just show this to me all in one shot? Why do we
I
have
was
to
playing the
break it?
long game.
Dude, he was playing a long game, stringing it out, getting as much as he possibly could for it. But you know what? I had to have these clasps. They're gorgeous gold clasps. 3 golds, 1 silver. Fantastic. So I was sure to scoop them up so I can get them in inventory.
Well, that's really cool. But you know what? It sounds like you got some more stuff that you can show on the YouTube channel too. You can open a box.
Sorry, my daughter's trying.
Is that your assistant? Is that your office assistant over there?
That's a photographer.
What do you got there, honey?
I want to know why this is rainbow color.
It's rainbow color. Oh, well, this is a World War I victory medal. She's showing me. She found in the office.
Adorable.
That's what's on her desk.
That's what's on her desk. Valentina found. Is it a Belgian? Oh, it's a Belgian World War I victory medal she found, and it's pretty color. So she found it and wants to know more about it. So that's
Awesome.
from World War I. All right.
Shout out to Belgium. Not allowed to hang out with Gailen.
Oh, Gailen. Sorry, Gailen.
All right, boys. Well, we can wrap it up there. Great stuff as always. I love seeing what's floating around on your desks. And let's plug the websites. As always, Joshua Doda. I run QueenCityMilitaria.com, and I've been joined by Billy Kramer of Wehrmachtmilitaria.com.
Good day, my lady. If you guys don't know what my website is with this background, I can't help you.
And Dante Gambino of SMG War Relics.
Hey guys, great episode. Thanks again for everything. And don't forget, it's war-relics.com.
You got to remember the hyphen. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.